Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the February 4th, 2014 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It is my privilege and pleasure to call this meeting to order. There are copies of our meeting agenda on either side of the room. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to pick up a copy and follow along with our proceedings tonight. There will be multiple opportunities for comment from the public with respect to both items that are on our agenda tonight, as well as a segment, section 4, which is devoted to public comments of a general nature with respect to items that are not appearing on our agenda tonight. It is our custom to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so at this point I would ask everyone to please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask our fine village clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson? Commissioner Rankin?
Here. Commissioner
Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Newstack?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3. It pertains to minutes of prior council meetings. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. Actually, 3 sets of minutes to approve tonight. The regular village council meeting minutes from our January 21st, 2014 council meeting, and then executive session minutes from December 17th of 2013 and January 7th of 2014. Do any members of the village council have any questions, corrections, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Those minutes are all approved. Thank you very much. And that brings us to section 4 on tonight's agenda, which is reserved for public comments of a general nature with respect to items not appearing on our agenda tonight. If any members of the audience have any general questions they would like to make at this time, then the protocol is to please come down to the podium, give us your name and address, please, and we would welcome hearing from you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bob Pagels, and I live at 4717 Main Street. My wife Elaine and I moved to Downers Grove in 2001 and love being part of this community. Living on Main Street brings additional responsibilities for homeowners, including the constant removal of litter and cigarettes discarded by motorists. Another critical task performed by Main Street residents is keeping the public sidewalk clear for pedestrians, especially during the winter months. And that is a subject to my comments tonight. The sidewalk in front of my home is used every week by commuters walking to the Main Street train station or the Ogden Avenue bus stop, students walking to Downers Grove North High School, residents walking to shops and restaurants in the business district, and additionally on weekends it is used by members of St. Joseph's Catholic Church and Gloria Dei Lutheran Church walking to their church services. These pedestrians range in age from young children to senior citizens. During the winter months, the village, I believe, is the village that clears the downtown business district sidewalks of snow, extending this cleaning service north on Main Street to its either Franklin or Prairie Streets. From where the village cleaning ends, all the way to Ogden Avenue, it is up to the Main Street homeowners to keep the public sidewalks clear for pedestrians. I acknowledge this responsibility is no different for me than it is for the majority of Downers Grove residents, but with 2 exceptions. First, my sidewalk is traveled by a large and diverse group of pedestrians, as I've already stated. Secondly, and very importantly, the clearing of 4 lanes of Main Street by village snowplows creates an extraordinary volume of heavy, salt-laden slush propelled onto Main Street sidewalks. Throughout a snow event, each sidewalk is repeatedly dosed with slush and snow from roadway plows whose volume comes from 2 lanes of Main Street. This double plow volume, mixed with the heavy salt and frequent replowing during snowstorms, makes clearing the Main Street sidewalk a heavy and strenuous chore. I am physically able to clear my sidewalk and that of my neighbor to the south, but some residents can't or won't clear their sidewalks of snow and salty slush for many days after a snow event. This public safety hazard endured by the hundreds of pedestrians that use Main Street daily is not to be taken lightly. A personal examination by council members during a snow event will reveal the inconsistent and hazardous condition as one walks Main Street block by block from St. Joseph's Church to Downers Grove North. Many pedestrians make the dangerous choice to walk in a traffic lane and avoid the sidewalks altogether. I have observed this time and time again over the last 14 winters. Pedestrian public safety on Main Street should be treated just as importantly as automobile public safety. My request and recommendation to the Village Council is to extend the sidewalk clearing performed by the village from the business district all the way to North High School or Ogden Avenue to facilitate a safe route for students, commuters, and village residents who frequent the Main Street public sidewalks. This winter has been extraordinarily cold and snowy, making this year the perfect storm for the Village Council to take action and commit to its residents a safe pedestrian passage along its highly trafficked Main Street sidewalks. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming here. And you're not alone. This winter has drawn out a number of comments along the lines of snow removal from sidewalks throughout the village, and some fall in areas where there's private responsibility, some fall in areas where it's a different situation. The downtown is within a special service area, so there's actually an agreement that governs the boundaries that within that area. There is a particular snow service removal, but that is actually paid for above and beyond the normal residence by the people that live within that district, which is one of the reasons why that is treated differently than even a block away. It's because it's a special service area, which means that they're actually paying a little bit more than the average person because they live in there for, among other things, that particular service, and there are some others. I fully empathize with you because I'm also a resident who lives on Main Street, although on the south side of the tracks, and I also walk to the train station, and a lot of people shovel and some people don't. I usually, no matter how deep the snow is, I will not go into Main Street. I don't just think that's a bad idea generally, and I might get yelled at by Commissioner Neustadt if I did that. But your point is well taken, and it's something that we've heard about. Obviously, we would then be drawn into, well, why just Ogden? Why just Main Street between Ogden and the downtown? What about the south side? Commissioner Durkin might say, we always forget about the south side. We should go down further, the people that are walking there, and of course we have the Belmont train station, we have the Fairview train station. It quickly becomes a much bigger issue. However, your points are well taken, understood, and as part of, I think, a lot of things that we'll be discussing post this extreme cold and snow that we've been experiencing in 2013 and 2014, perhaps there might be some recommendations that would come out of it, so we appreciate the emails that we've received and some of the phone calls, as well as your comments here tonight, so thank you for being here, and stay warm and safe. Other questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to matters of a general nature with respect to items not appearing on our agenda tonight? Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5 on our agenda, which pertains to councilmember reports with respect to public goings-on within the community. Start with Commissioner Jose tonight. Any matters to report out?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make folks aware, in case they hadn't seen it on the village website, of the Downers Grove Police Department's newly relaunched program to allow people to safely dispose of old and unused prescription medications. We need you to do it by appointment, so you can contact the crime prevention specialist, Mary Wennerstrom, at 630-434-5681, and you can then schedule the appointment to drop off the prescriptions, or they can actually make arrangements to come and pick them up from you. So I hope folks will take advantage of that to help increase public safety and help protect the environment. That's all I've got. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Rankin?
I would just like to remind everyone that the Grove Foundation is having their annual Passport to Dining on Thursday, February 27th from 6 to 9. It's held in downtown Downers Grove, and you pay $25 and you can go to 5 different restaurants and try their appetizers. Your drinks are on your own. The Grove Foundation is a local group of do-gooders that give back to the community. We recently gave grants to Senior Suburban Orchestra, J. Cow Braid, Senior Home Sharing, Senior Adult Daycare, and the Downers Grove North Garden. And then also another tidbit is Downers Grove Fish Pantry is looking for a new van, and through February 14th, the Grove Foundation will be matching grants up to $1,000. So there's information, I believe, on the Grove Foundation's website regarding this. You just have to put it in the check line that it's a Grove Foundation grant so that they will match that, we can match that donation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I know last time we met, I had brought up asking residents to clean out their fire hydrant area. Glad to see that we've put this information on our website, and any other residents who are able to clean out the area around a fire hydrant, There's a number of them that are plowed in, and God forsaken, if we need to have our fire staff get to a fire hydrant because of a house fire or a fire in the area, it's gonna take a lot of time for them to get to it. So if you're able to get to your fire hydrant, clean it out, we greatly appreciate it. There's a great picture illustrating what we would like to see done. And if there's areas of the town that residents can't do that, Manager Fieldman, do we have staff available that can go if a resident calls and requests help?
That's something we could look into, sure.
Okay, because there's quite a few on the mayors of the south side that are totally buried in, and they're being buried in by our plows because of the way the street and the wind blows. So, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Neustadt?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, just a quick thank you to all the village departments who are handling this winter weather. I don't think it's touched every department in the entire village, from finance to community development to police, fire, communications, legal office, manager's office, everybody, fire, police, of course, public
Well, now you're
works.
going to leave someone out, so you have to list them.
Trying not to. IT, I think everybody is,
Risk management.
fleet division, risk, yeah, I think, thanks for risk. But really, they've done a great job. It's not easy work, and there's been a lot of teamwork from not only the Public Works Department, but from our other public safety departments to look out for each other. And I think we're pretty fortunate here in Downers Grove to have such a great team making sure that the roads and some sidewalks in some areas in town are safe for us to travel. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll just add on to that topic. I did get a phone call today from a resident who was expressing appreciation for the fact that when a snowplow unceremoniously took out his mailbox and he called to report it, it was replaced before he was even aware of it. So he called up to say, wow, that was great. I called. Next thing I know, it was replaced. I can't believe how fast it was done. Great job. I want to share that as long as you're on that topic. Commissioner Barnett?
I've got nothing, Mayor.
For myself, just a few things I want to report out. Number one, the Downers Grove Area Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring once again their up and down and all around stair climb and indoor 5K walk. Thank goodness it's indoors. And that will be this Saturday, February 8th, beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning at Esplanade at Locust Point in the atrium. And you can go up and down the stairs of the building as long as you can tolerate. Commissioner Olson, I think, probably went 6 or 7 times. I went about 3.5, and that was it for me. But there's also a 5K walk indoors, so if you want to get your blood pumping this weekend at 8 o'clock in the morning, I believe it continues until, I don't know when it continues, I think until the last person finishes perhaps, but it'll go on for a while. Now that event is going on, and you can sign up at the Chamber of Commerce's website. And if you do get your blood going and you've got things ready to go and you've got your exercise in from the up and down, you can then come to Coffee with the Council, where members of the Village Council will be attending this Saturday, also on February 8th. It will be from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m., located at the brand spanking new headquarters of the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation, which is, of course, on Mokel Drive. And since Mokel Drive is not that long, I probably don't even need to give you the address, but it's we're just outside of the entrance to the parking deck. We'll be there from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m., so you can come from the chamber event over to Coffee with the Council, where we'll have an informal environment for members of the Village Council to interact with members of the public with respect to whatever's on your mind. And hopefully the weather will permit. And then last, I do want to mention the upcoming Ice Festival. We have our annual Ice Festival, and I realize a lot of people probably aren't thinking, wow, gee, I want to see more ice.
Well, at least the sculptures will be around this year.
Well, but every year we have a problem. Is the weather going to be good for ice or good for people? And what you really want is that balance where it's both good for people and ice. So far, I think ice is winning this year, but we'll see what things are like this upcoming weekend. But it's truly a nice festival, and ordinarily is a great opportunity to get outside and break that cabin fever and visit some of the stores in downtown. And there's lots of activities going on. The Downtown Management Corporation sponsors that, and there'll be more information about it, I'm sure, coming up. But this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in downtown Downers Grove, since of course all the sidewalks will be shoveled in downtown Downers Grove, you should be able to get around and visit the different goings-on. That's all I have. That brings us to item 6 on our agenda, which is devoted to public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. And yes, I did not forget, ma'am, did you have a comment of a general nature that you didn't get in earlier? Ma'am, if you wouldn't mind, please coming down to the podium.
Yes.
Otherwise, the folks at home can't hear you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Welcome.
If you could just give us your name and address. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council. My name is Violet Lalicon Rodwell. I have been living in Downers Grove since 1991 when my husband purchased the property at 5410 Grand, G-R-A-N-D, the as in dog, Grand Avenue, Downers Grove. I am here because of an incident that happened last week Wednesday around between 5 and 5:30 in the evening. I was going home on our block. To make the story short, my car hit a parked car, and then I found out who owned that, and then they called the police, and a police officer came. And so I did not run away from obligation because the street was dark. Nobody saw what happened. So anyway, being a resident of Downers Grove, I feel that it's my responsibility to be honest. So the policeman came, and then he took all the information, and he told me that my car, which is a 2003 Grand Marquis, would have to be towed. And then he told me there are four towing companies here that this, I have found out yesterday, have contract with the village of Downers Grove to provide the towing services to vehicles that need to be towed per call from a police officer. So I asked, he told me 1, 2, 3, 4, and he told me, he mentioned Main Street Shell. I've been going to Main Street Shell, gas station here, for almost 10 years, and Mr. Jim has been one of my mechanic. So I requested the officer, please, my car, I want to be towed to Shell, because I know how they work. And plus, I would be charged fairly based on my opinion, my experience with them. But he said there's a role, I don't know how to call that. After one towing company, the next one, and after the next one, regardless of how much. And so I did not know. It was my first time my car to be towed, called by a police officer. My car was towed, but I was the one who called. And I paid $75. So finally, they towed my car. And then I went home, and after that, I found out my 2 cell phones were in the trunk and inside the car that was towed. So I told the officer I didn't have a cell phone. Oh, he gave me a card. In this card, it just has the address, which is Chase Avenue, Downers Grove. And telephone number. How could I make? There was no communication. So what I did the following day, I walked to the train. After that, I took the train and I walked, and I found out. And then, to make the story short, a gentleman from a Veterans Foreign War gave me a ride. And I found out, I asked the lady over there, and her name is Miss Roxanne, how much is the towing fee? $150. And I was carrying my check, $150. So, well, being a senior citizen and our limited budget, I wasn't so sure if I have that money in my account at West Suburban Bank. I don't want to issue a check that would bounce. So okay, fine, after that, I thought it was $150, so I left. This was about after 4 o'clock because they closed at 6 o'clock. So I left the guy from Mr. Bart, he gave me a ride home. So I went. The following day, I came back. So I had my check. And then they told me, no, you have to pay $220. $220. What happened? I thought it was $150. No, because you have the car stayed in the car, in their lot. That's $35 a day, $70.
Storage.
So $150 plus $70, that's $220. I wasn't so sure if I have enough. So I went to West Suburban Bank and asked them, how much money do I have in my account? Just enough to pay the $220. Okay, fine. Now, my car, they told me if your car would stay here, you'll pay another $35 the following day. So I called up Maine, Downers Grove, Maine. I know they charge $75. So I barely exist, and I withdraw money, $220. And I told Miss Roxanne, why didn't you tell me that for my car to stay here for 1 day, another day it's $35. And so I paid $150 plus the $70 Plus, if my car it was towed to Main Street, that's $75. You figured about that out. I'm not a rich woman. I wish I have money like other senior citizens in Downers Grove. They have a lot of money in their bank account. I do not have. So anyway, that was my point is that, is it hard for an officer to tell me? I was carrying my check. When I went over there Thursday, I could have paid that 150 and 30. I could have saved my money another $35. Or if the police officer have said yes, I will call up Downers Grove Main Street Sheriff because they said okay fine. I found out. I did the research yesterday. All of this have contracts with the Villas of Downers Grove. All of them, and then they would charge $150. But if I would call the towing company, I would only pay $75. Well, people in Downers Grove, people who live here have a lot of money to spare. I'm not one of those. In fact, I plan to move out of because I cannot afford to live in Downers Grove. During the time that my husband was alive, yes, we could. Now I'm alone, I cannot. So anyway, to make the story short, I feel that it is the responsibility of the officer. I have to be informed. Not everybody in Downers Grove are smart. I'm one of the big dummies here. I do not know how much this. They do not even have a posting. You go to other towns, I travel, you go to other towns, there's a posting over there. MasterCard, cash, how much the cost of the towing and everything. It is over there. Here, they do not have even a posting. That is not right. You have to inform the general public that when they come and they see that, well, it would cost me this, well, it would cost me that. To my opinion, it is not fair. You know, I mean, when after that, I'm saddened if I did not inquire more about that, maybe my car would be over there, and then after that, it would be, that is the only transportation I have. It would be a big problem. And my request to the police department is this: please inform your officer to inform the public, the motorists, that this is the cost of the towing, $150. And if your car stays in one day, you'll have to pay $35. Period. That is not hard to do, and that at least that person could call up his family members, his friends, loan me money because I have this, and so at least I could save money. Nothing at all. I feel that I deserve to be informed. And there should be a posting, not just, I mean, we cannot guess how much a business would charge a motorist. That's their business. They could charge $200, but please, I know they have contracts with you, but please inform the general public that this is the cost of the towing, and this, if your car stays here, I even requested that, can I pay money order? I said, no, we only accept cash, and we only accept cash or credit card. I don't have a credit card. Not everybody is rich and have a credit card. I do not have. I'm one of those who don't have a credit card. I'm sorry to inform you about my life, but I'm being honest. I'm here because please inform the general public that the cost of towing is $150. At least that person can make calls. I do not have my cell phone in my car. At least that person could call up his friend or the family, please lend me money. So at least, otherwise I would be saddled with debt. That's the only thing. And plus, you know, I mean, of course, this is a record of the officer gave me a ticket. That is fine. But my point is that just inform the public. That is what, not just, okay, action towing. If I would go talk to them, how much do they charge? How much would I pay every day? Nothing at all.
Violet, may I interrupt you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, only because we
I'm
have
done.
some other things to cover tonight. Thank you, and I'm very sorry to hear about your
Well,
experience. I think I understand your point, and I think we can look at whether some additional information can be provided at the point of communication.
Mr. Mayor.
I think now everybody probably does know about the cost of towing.
Mr. Mayor, the only request I'm asking for is inform the public.
I understood. I understand your point perfectly.
Thank you.
And again, sorry to hear for your ordeal. Make sure there's no other comments of a general nature before we go forward. Thank you. Okay, then, I think I mentioned item 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so that brings us to item 7 on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, any questions or comments from members of the village council with respect to any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to, well, we have a motion to approve. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to our active agenda. We have no items on our active agenda, which brings us right to item 9, which is our first reading or our workshop agenda, where we entertain items for discussion and presentation only, or usually presentation and discussion only. And for action potentially at a later point in time, there's 3 items on the first reading or workshop agenda tonight. As is customary, I will turn over these items for presentation to village manager. Mr. Fieldman.
The first item is an ordinance establishing a crosswalk at Carpenter Street, shown here on the visual on the screen. This would complete pedestrian improvements made in conjunction with the Grove Street redevelopment. This is right outside of Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Our Public Works Director, Nan Newland, is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. First, I'll entertain any questions or comments on this item from any members of the public. Any questions or comments from members of the village council?
I have a question.
Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, and this is a repeat. Can we get I support this. I think this is great. I think we should be doing more of this throughout the community, especially we've heard about residents asking about snow removal and so on and so forth. Can we get an update, please, on this very same item that I've been asking about regarding the crosswalk installation for 63rd and Springside for Downer South, along with Main and Norfolk, or Main and whatever street, Oxford, that they would want to put it at?
Yes.
I mean, it's continuous every day. It's just a matter of time, I firmly believe, before somebody gets injured with students trying to cross the street.
Will do.
I appreciate it. And if there's anything that we as a council, or even the mayor, or any of us, to get on the attention of the county, I know for one, I would definitely be willing to make calls on our behalf. Because I see it in other communities, and you know that, Dave, because I send you pictures of it. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Sure. In fact, the next time that there's a joint municipal DuPage County Board intergovernmental meeting, there's one every month. They're typically attended by probably just less than a quorum of the county board. I'd be happy to bring it up. If you'll remind me, I'll be glad to.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, by all means. And I can even get, your neighbors in that area.
And there are
So they-
attendees from outside District 2 and
Okay.
3, so it's usually representatives from all the districts.
Great. And then maybe staff can get us a full report before we do that. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin?
I'm always concerned about safety at these crosswalks, and I always ask if we can have flashing crosswalk signals, and I just was wondering if maybe when we're talking about our budgeting next year, if we can actually see what the cost of that is. I know in Main Street, Downers Grove, people are constantly waiting in that crosswalk, and no one's paying attention, and they're not getting across, and it's just an unsafe thing. So I'd like to just know what the cost of that is, and if we can consider that as an option.
Will do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments on this item? Next item, please, 9B.
The next 2 items are ordinances and motions considering amending our alarm code provisions and calling for installation of wireless alarms. And here to present this information is our Fire Chief, Jim Jackson.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to present a motion for approval of wireless alarm systems for the 2 Total Fire and Safety. This will consist of an upgrade to the village's current fire alarm system, the receipt of wireless, so they can receive wireless fire alarms. And that cost is roughly about $61,326. Also will include, it would be a 4-year maintenance that goes with that after the first year that we have the system in place. And the total would be about $85,000, a little bit more, a little under. This, along with this motion, we're going to have, I'm presenting to you tonight, also a continuation of the current ordinance that we have. And what we did, we cleaned up the ordinance to reflect the wireless alarms and to make sure that it all flowed together. Wireless alarms are a more reliable way of receiving fire alarm transmissions to our dispatch center instead of using telephone lines. Wireless alarms also reduce the false alarms that we get when we use traditional telephone lines and the problems that we have that associate with it. It's a great opportunity for our business owners, this is in Downers Grove, to switch to the wireless alarms. It will significantly reduce their telephone costs, their monthly telephone costs, which reduces the annual cost to them. Businesses that choose to upgrade to this wireless alarm, they will work directly, the businesses will work directly with their alarm installers to get this upgrade. The choices are going to be the businesses, and if they elect to do so, once again, they will just go ahead and work with their alarm system, and then they will connect to the Village of Downers Grove. It's a great efficiency for the businesses as well as the fire department. It's a reduction in the false alarms that we get with this wireless fire alarm system. It keeps our fire apparatus available for subsequent calls. It reduces the amount of risk by keeping our rigs off the street, and also it has other enhances as far as mechanical savings for us. So again, this is totally an option for the businesses. It's a great concept in the wireless alarms to have this connectivity wirelessly to the Village of Downers Grove. We had a committee of individuals working on this very extensively for the past year or so, and it turns out to be a very productive type of environment, and so therefore we're proud to present this to you this evening. And again, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer any ones that you have.
Thank you very much, Chief. Pause here and ask if any members of the audience have any questions on both or either item. It would be 9B or C on our agenda. Mr. Johnson, please. Good evening.
Willis Johnson, 603 Rogers. Several of the questions I had were answered. I applaud the village for adopting this for all the reasons that the chief just said, mainly a lot of the quantity of false alarms that are normally attributed to telephone lines. I know that I personally have wireless connections in 8 other communities, and for approximately 5 years or more, and they work great. I was just, I'm a little concerned or would like to know, which I think I do now, that what the responsibility of the property owner is going to be, and that is, and both to implement it as well as financially. And I'm assuming that that burden or opportunity, depending on how you look at it, is going to be on the property owner. And I was also concerned about how it was going to be handled from I assume we're going to have to get permits to do this install. I'm assuming that we would use, from what has been said, we would use our own alarm company with equipment that I assume is specified by the village, so to make sure that it's obviously compatible with what the village is installing. And I'm assuming that the implementation would be relatively quickly. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Didn't know if there was any of those questions you wanted to address now, or if they were addressed with in the course of the chief's comments earlier.
I noticed you had a lot of questions. Just feel free to call the Fire Prevention Bureau. We'd love to answer all those questions. Our implementation, once we get the system up and running, it's going to be based on the installer, I should say Total Fire and Safety. Once they're awarded the contract, then we have to go and we'll sit down and create a Gantt chart, if you will, and set the timelines for them so we keep on track. So and that would be publicized. We'll let everybody know.
So this is an open system. We just specify the types of radios that we would accept. The village installs the receiver radio here at our Village Operations Center. Any business choosing to switch from land phone lines to wireless would install the sending radio at their location using qualified staff, and we would help and facilitate with any permits. Again, this is a choice, and we hope this choice results in savings. It will in their monthly fees. There will be some upfront cost to the owner as they make the switch, which should be recovered shortly.
Terrific, thank you. Other questions or comments on these items from any members of the audience at this point? Very good. Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Neustadt?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, congratulations, Chief, on being named the president of the
DuPage
DuPage.
Fire Chiefs Association.
Congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
just happened.
Is that real now?
It's real now.
We're never gonna see him.
Oh, it's a balancing act, I'll tell you.
have,
I've learned that in the first month.
2 president chiefs in our ranks here at the Village of Downers Grove. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Along with Mr. Johnson, I think this is a great addition to our service to our customers. We're not only going to save here at Village Hall and at VOC with time and efficiencies, but I can't tell you how many times I've been called by our kind VOC operators in the middle of the night that a phone line trouble is happening on a fire alarm, and got to go check it out. And it's not a pleasant thing to have to do, but you never know what it is, so you go check. And phone lines are finicky. They can be temperamental with water, snow, wind, rain, power outages, everything. So this changeover to wireless really is an opportunity for anybody who has multiple phone lines, multiple buildings. School District 58 has 15 buildings. That's 2 phone lines per building that could potentially be saved. So there's a lot of opportunity for savings and efficiencies here. I think this will be great once we're up and going. I'm sure we'll see a lot of people switch over, and it'll be very interesting to see the calls for service and how they change as this is implemented. I know we don't really respond to troubles very often, but one phone line problem can cause a true fire alarm at an institution, and that can send everybody going. So this will be great. Looking forward to hopefully getting some done at my employer as well, so I don't get those midnight calls. So, but thank you, and thank you for being here, Jenny, to answer any questions if we had them for you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions? Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know if I missed it in here, but could we get sometime between now and next week some sort of a quantification, at least the best that we can do, about how many phone line related false alarms we get over the course of a year? I think that might shock people what the actual cost of that is if we quantified that.
Yeah, I'll work with dispatch on that.
Be good information for folks to think through.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin?
I just wanted to applaud the village. We, as a business, have had to deal with this in another municipality, and I just think it's great that we're being very sensitive to how it impacts the small business owner and not just being focused on our efficiencies. I like that it's an optional thing, so if someone cannot afford to do it, they're not required to at this time, and I hope that continues to stay that way. And I agree with you that probably the offset of purchasing the wireless fire alarm will be offset by the savings in the phone lines as time passes. So I just think it's a great effort. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? I will just echo the comments of my colleagues. Thank you, Chief.
And that ends our first reading, Mayor. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our workshop. Item 9 brings us to item 10, the mayor's report. I have 2 items under the mayor's report tonight. The first is an item of new business with respect to a liquor license application, which is required to be put on file, and I will put it into the record right now. Now, the village has received an application for an off-premise beer and wine-only liquor license from 7-Eleven, doing business as 7-Eleven, located at 5105 Fairview Avenue. Pursuant to Section 3-12 of the Liquor Control Ordinance, a public hearing for a liquor license application may be waived. The application must be placed on file for a minimum of 2 weeks, subject to a public comment period prior to the issuance of the new license. At this time, as the Liquor Commissioner of the Village of Downers Grove, I'm placing this application on file with the Village Clerk's office. Barring any objection, once the 2-week waiting period has passed, a liquor license shall be issued to 7-Eleven, Inc., doing business as 7-Eleven, located at 5105 Fairview Avenue in the Village of Downers Grove. Putting that on file as of today. And the second item of new business I have as under the mayor's report is the 2013 annual report for the Village of Downers Grove. So as soon as Mr. Kozlowski already has it up, I will say at this point that I'm very proud and privileged to present to you, our community, the 2013 annual report for the Village of Downers Grove, which is also sometimes known as the State of the Village Address. As many of us know, there is a long tradition in our country of the chief executive of a political body giving a State of the Union type of address. In fact, it's a concept that is embodied in Article 2, Section 3 of the United States Constitution. There is an equally long history of that chief executive officer announcing at some point during the State of the Union address that the State of the Union is strong. And that statement is usually met with raucous, choreographed applause. I will ask neither one of those things from you tonight. I'm also not going to tell you tonight that the state of our village is strong. No, instead I'm going to show you that the state of our village is both strong and on a path of sustained success. Now, in the interest of time, because it's hard to summarize an entire year in the time that my colleagues would permit before they started to throw things at me, I'm going to focus on a number of key examples that I believe will lead you to the inevitable, irrefutable conclusion that we are in a strong state and on a path of sustained success. And importantly, please note that our strength is not measured solely in terms of financial position, but also in terms of prudent governance, creative and strategic vision, exceptional and innovative performance, and of course, good stewardship of public assets. Let's begin with sustainability of financial and environmental assets. I'd like to walk through a few examples. Very excitingly, last year, as most of you know, Standard & Poor's improved the village's bond rating to AAA, which is the highest rating that it could achieve. This distinction places the village of Downers Grove among the elite communities in our nation. There are only about 23 or so municipalities in the entire state of Illinois that have this distinction of a AAA bond rating. Now, this means many things, and some folks have asked me, gee, that sounds really great, but what does that really mean for me, the resident of Downers Grove, or a business in Downers Grove? Well, number one, what it means is that it's independent confirmation of the village's sound financial management practices, as verified by an independent outside entity. It also has allowed us to achieve the lowest cost of borrowing money that we could because of that good rating. And for example, it has already saved us approximately $90,000 on downtown tax increment financing of bonds associated with the downtown TIF. But just of that alone, the improved credit rating, or bond rating, excuse me, translated into $90,000 savings. This rating is also, as Mr. Casa will tell you, is a very useful economic development tool in terms of attraction and retention of businesses to our community, because they know that they are in a well-managed community. Now, I mentioned refunding TIF bonds. A couple of the other things that we did last year was to, as I mentioned, refund both the downtown TIF bonds as well as the library bonds. Now, this is part of the village staff always keeping its eyes out for opportunities to reduce expenses without reducing services. So when opportunities present themselves to refinance bond debt service for either, in this case, the library or the downtown TIF, they jump at those opportunities with advance notice and approval from the village council. And just to translate that into dollars for you, these opportunities with respect to the downtown TIF bond, that debt service payments were reduced by $478,000, and the library debt service payments were reduced by about $132,000. Now, these steps both reduce the amount that the village may have to tax the general public on future property tax levies in order to pay that debt, but it also assists, at least in the case of the library debt service, assists our library partners by reducing debt service payments and freeing up funds for building improvements. And I know Mr. Loftus, who sits on our library board, is here tonight, and I'm sure he certainly appreciates the fact that we would free up funds for building improvements, knowing that the library is in the midst of pursuing a number of improvements to their facility. Another example of what 2013 saw was further improvement of the fiscal 2014 budget message and presentation. And I'm talking, of course, about our actual budget document. This has improved light years over what it has been since I first viewed it when I first became involved with the Village Council in, believe it or not, 2002. And it is really a document that not only celebrates our successes, but makes that very easily understood by members of the public, because of course our accomplishments in terms of our financial strength are diminished if they are not readily discernible by the public. This is really an improved understanding of the village's planned use of resources, improves the relationship between the fiscal 2014 budget and the long-range plan. Those two things are much better tied together so folks can see what the strategic vision is, how it ties into and drives the actual budget document, and therefore the various actions that take place over the next fiscal year. And as I mentioned, this document is easier to read and easier to understand than ever before, and that is a true testament to our staff's ability to constantly improve the document, because it is one of the most important things that we put out. People want to know where the revenue goes and how it is spent. That's very important. Well, speaking of revenue, one of the biggest parts of our budget is the general fund. And I'm very pleased to point out that as we saw the economy generally start to improve, last year alone we saw improvement in our revenues along with further reductions in some costs. Particularly with respect to the general fund, that balance increased by about $820,000. And these dollars, importantly, can now be used for infrastructure improvements and public safety related needs. So that's very good news. We did have some bad news in 2013, and that was right around April 13th and 14th of 2013. Anyone who was not on the moon at that time will remember the near biblical rains that we experienced and the flooding that followed it. Those rains and the flooding associated with it hit our village and our residents pretty hard. Well, the Village of Downers Grove worked with other governments and agencies to obtain federal funds to help mitigate those costs. By working with FEMA, we were able to receive for the village, and I'll talk about individual assistance a little bit later in the presentation, but for the village we received just over $100,000 from FEMA in order to cover some of our unexpected and unanticipated flood response related costs. So that was a positive, something good that came out of something that wasn't so pleasant at the time. Well, now I'd like to turn to municipal services and what I'm going to call neatly providing exceptional municipal services. Now you might ask, well, what do you mean by neatly providing exceptional municipal services? Does that mean that everybody's wearing a white jumpsuit and tweezers and picking up along with them? Is everything neat and tidy? No, I'm actually referring to one of the alternative definitions of the word neat. Now, if you look at Merriam-Webster online, my favorite, definition 4B, which is one of the alternative definitions for neat, means as follows: marked by skill or ingenuity, adroit. And that's the definition that I choose to apply when referring to how the village provides exceptional municipal services. We have and continue to employ a lean approach to managing our organization and delivering services. L-E-A-N. And I'm just going to make up another government acronym here because that's one of the things we do very well. And from this point forward, lean shall hereby be known as leveraging existing assets neatly. Of course, adopting the definition of neat that I shared with you a moment ago. That is, marked by skill or ingenuity. The culture of lean has been fully integrated within this organization and is part of the day-to-day activities of everyone within the organization. How can we do things better? By leveraging our existing resources with skill or ingenuity. And in 2013, the village continued to apply that lean approach to provide the same or better service at less cost in a number of areas. And I'll just share a few examples with you. One was entering into a new electricity supply contract, which resulted in a savings of about $11,000. A new mobile phone contract netted an additional $12,000 savings. By privatizing electrical licensing testing, which is something the village has historically provided, that also resulted in savings. And the one that's being highlighted right now is enhanced street sweeping. And this really achieves two benefits for our community. Number one, improved stormwater quality, which is very important and will be something I'll be mentioning on multiple occasions tonight, but also of the quality and the appearance of our streets. And the enhanced street sweeping efforts that were implemented last year is really a terrific example of providing better service with less investment of village staff. And while those dollar amounts may not sound as large as some of the ones that I mentioned, they add up pretty quickly. And they add up not only within a year, but year after year after year. Just another example of that lean concept. Some of the other things that we did that I'm going to talk about under the umbrella of exceptional municipal services is completing the historic building survey. Now, what's all this about? Well, as just about everyone probably knows, the village is over 180 years old and is very rich with both history and local wonders. And we celebrate that history by recognizing and cherishing it. One way we have done that was by adopting the Historic Preservation Ordinance in 2007, not uncoincidentally, on the 175th anniversary of the village's founding. But a key next step in the process of historic preservation was completing our historic building survey. That allowed us and allowed the village to continue to participate in the Certified Local Government Program, which makes it easier for residents to choose to take advantage of state and federal historic preservation programs and funding. This survey and its completion provides important information on historic buildings and neighborhoods within our community in order to facilitate voluntary designation of buildings or neighborhoods as historically or architecturally significant. And so that's something that we're very glad to see come to fruition at this stage. A few other things I want to mention are the creation of the new retiree health insurance plan. There was an example where we turned inward to our own employees, where the village saw an opportunity to maintain important benefits with lower expenses. This new plan reduced annual expenses by about $70,000. And of course, it wouldn't be a Downers Grove State of the Village or annual report if I didn't mention the words communication, cooperation, and collaboration, because here in Downers Grove, partnerships are paramount. Communication, cooperation, and collaboration continue to be keys to sustaining our success while respecting the limits of finite resources. In 2013 saw the Village of Downers Grove embrace new partnerships above and beyond those we previously have enjoyed. Here's some examples. We approved a Park District fleet maintenance agreement, obviously in conjunction with the Downers Grove Park District. We are participating in a joint newsletter delivery with both the Downers Grove Park District and School District 58, and have began dispatching for the sanitary district with respect to their calls. So again, working with other taxing bodies here in Downers Grove allows us to continue to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate with our partners and other agencies to the benefit of our mutual constituents. Let me share with you a few additional examples. The village also launched a special needs identification program that enables the police department to use a master list for identifications and finding persons at risk of wandering. We hosted a school safety town hall meeting last February, which enhanced working relationships with District 58 and increased public awareness about safety measures undertaken by both the village and School District 58. The village, of course, also hosted stormwater education workshops in conjunction with the implementation of the new stormwater utility that I'll touch upon in a little bit. These workshops were not only educational on that topic, but also enhanced relationships with residents and businesses within our community, and at the same time connected local businesses with residents who attended those meetings. And of course, most importantly, it increased awareness of the stormwater issues that we have in Downers Grove, as well as the stormwater utility and available credits and incentives in order to mitigate the stormwater utility fee. I mentioned a little bit earlier how the village had worked with FEMA in order to obtain available funds back to offset the cost of the village's expenses incurred in responding to the flood events of April of 2013. Well, that was the publicly available dollars. There were also individually available dollars for residents who were saddled with the impact of the April 2013 flooding events. And the village worked with FEMA to make sure that we not only achieved on behalf of residents, but ultimately resulted in the distribution of over $1.6 million to 522 Downers Grove residents to help them and their families deal with the April 2013 flood damages expenses. And then, speaking of stormwater, I do want to underscore one other thing, which we've mentioned before, but it bears repeating. Clearly, stormwater is an important issue in Downers Grove. It's an important issue with respect to the environment in which we live in our community, but it's also something that we have to be mindful of because of federal regulations, primarily the Federal Clean Water Act. But all our efforts with respect to improving stormwater and management and flood risk mitigation have some other benefits. And one of those was that because of our ongoing efforts, the village improved its community rating system, or CRS, from 7 to 6, 1 being the best. This improved rating points, first of all, to the effectiveness of the village's proactive approaches to flood risk mitigation and stormwater management, but also will result in a 20% flood insurance premium discount for property owners who live within the floodplain. And this represents a 5% increase in the discounts over the current rates as part of the National Flood Insurance Program, or NIFP. All of this, I believe, translated into thousands of dollars in premium savings on average for the most affected residents. So some real dollar savings to real residents from our stormwater efforts. Now, speaking of stormwater, of course, 2013 could not come and go without talking about maintaining and enhancing top-quality infrastructure, and the first order of business would, of course, be the implementation of the new stormwater utility, which was implemented in the very beginning of 2013. Now, the background, of course, is that the stormwater utility adopted by Downers Grove and implemented last year was the result of nearly a decade of investigation, assessment, input, and discussion about the best way to pay for the costs and the rising costs of stormwater infrastructure and maintenance. The council and the village determined that shifting to a stormwater fee would be a more logical, equitable, sustainable, accountable, and responsible way to fund stormwater infrastructure and maintenance costs. By shifting over to a fee, it also increased annual revenue available for stormwater infrastructure and maintenance by about $1 million by more fairly spreading the costs and the expenses in terms of the runoff that is generated by parcels within our community. We now have a more dedicated funding source that will be used to maintain and improve the stormwater system here within Downers Grove to meet not only the county stormwater requirements, but also the unfunded mandates such as the Federal Clean Water Act, which we have no choice but to comply with, but are provided no funds with which to do so. But it wasn't all about stormwater in 2013. We also completed $20 million in capital projects. And yes, now I'm talking streets, water, and sidewalks. Oh my. These projects were all done, the $20 million, without change orders and within budget, which is terrific and also a testament to the good management by our public works and other staff out in the field, making sure those projects go as planned. This is part of our continuing efforts to make great strides in catching up on street repair and street reconstruction projects, which is very important because it helps to reduce the life cycle costs of our ownership of those street systems. Just to give you a few examples of projects that took place last year, Washington Street at about $861,000 project, Concord Square Unit 2, which was about $2.8 million project, Oak Grove Unit 3, which was about a $1.5 million project, and general roadway maintenance of over $4 million. And those were streets. And I know that a lot of our residents have been noticing visibly the improvements in streets condition throughout the community as these projects continue, and there will be more. With respect to the water system, last year we connected 22 recently annexed parcels, annexed to the village of Downers Grove that is, to our water system. The water main loop in the annexed area was just under a $500,000 project, and other water main replacements last year were just north of $1.2 million in terms of the scope of the project. And we also, speaking of sidewalks, although they do have to be shoveled, the village invested over $500,000 in the construction of new sidewalks throughout the community as part of its long-term effort to make sure that there's at least one sidewalk on every street in Downers Grove. And we're getting very close to completing that project. Construction projects. One of them that was somewhat nettlesome and was out there for some time and had been the topic of discussion on this dais on more than one occasion was finally completing construction of the downtown dumpster enclosure. And if you've been to the Downers Grove parking deck, you will now notice the new dumpster enclosure that's featured on the screen right now. And if you come to the Coffee with the Council on Saturday, this will be not too far away. And it's a great improvement over what was there before, which were open dumpsters. This project, once the village took control of it, was completed in one construction season and has reduced the cost of refuse collection for the participating businesses that jointly use this location to place their waste. And I think all will agree, greatly improve the appearance of the area near the parking deck. We also sometimes focus on infrastructure that is not our own. And one example would be the electrical infrastructure within the village of Downers Grove. Last year, we hosted the third annual ComEd Town Hall meeting with respect to the infrastructure owned by ComEd that provides electrical service in the village of Downers Grove. As part of that town hall meeting, as we've done on prior occasions, the village facilitated ComEd responses to residents and businesses who had experienced electrical reliability issues throughout the year. And in particular, that meeting, we focused on residents in the Deer Creek and Hillcrest areas of our town. This is a continuing effort to enhance our relationship with ComEd to the benefit of our shared constituents, and has generated specific work lists for items for ComEd to address in the future. And while we're never completely satisfied with the progress that they've made. They are making progress, and we stay on it, and we're glad to see that every year these town hall meetings do bring relief and improvements to the affected areas. I mentioned economic development a little bit earlier, and of course a main focus of the Village of Downers Grove is always to build and maintain a strong and diverse local economy. Like your body, of course, a strong and diverse economy requires some sweat equity, and both the village and the Economic Development Corporation in Downers Grove have been working hard throughout 2013 to identify and pursue opportunities for new attraction and retention of businesses in our community. I'd like to talk about some of the economic development wins in 2013 that were a direct result of that sweat equity. And there are a number reflected here on the screen by the presence of their logos. For example, the American Society of Gastrointestinal Endoscopy opened their headquarters, I just want to say that one more time, opened their headquarters in Downers Grove last year. It is an extraordinarily handsome facility. If you ever have an opportunity to visit it, don't be thrown off by terms like gastrointestinal endoscopy. It's quite a very handsome facility and state-of-the-art in terms of what it contains. Big news, of course, was Advocate Healthcare, the parent of our Advocate Healthcare Good Samaritan Hospital here in Downers Grove, moved its headquarters from another community to the Highland Landmark building here in Downers Grove. Now, that is significant for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that Advocate Healthcare is the largest healthcare employer in the entire state of Illinois, and they now call Downers Grove their home. Just a few other examples in the interest of time. Grundfos, an international manufacturer of high-tech water pump technology, a Danish company, opened their North American headquarters at 2001 Butterfield. And I have to say I'm quite miffed by the fact that Governor Quinn, in his State of the State address, mentioned Grundfos, clearly trying to steal my thunder from tonight's presentation. Javi Global Solutions opened their headquarters at 3500 Lacey Road. Invesco Power Shares, we added to that list. Midwestern University wasn't satisfied with one entry, but they had to have two. One was the opening of their new dental clinic and also began construction on their auditorium. They are always improving their campus, and we're glad to see them improving their area because it also improves our area. Ray O'Haron will be locating at the Grove Shopping Center in Downers Grove. Speaking of shop, new grocery store Shop and Save opened their latest location over on Lamont Road. Probably the longest deli counter I have ever seen, that's for sure. Univar announced some time ago that will be opening its headquarters at Highland Landmark, and more recently, Art Van Furniture is going to be opening in the long vacant Home Depot Expo building over on the north end of town. We're very glad to see that. And of course, I would be neglectful if I didn't mention two of Commissioner Durkin's favorite topics: the new Lamborghini dealership that will be locating on Ogden Avenue, as well as the Aston Martin dealership that will be locating on Ogden Avenue. All of that is good news, and again, a testament to work by the village staff and also the Economic Development Corporation, its staff, and all of its members. And overall, we're happy to report that 2013 saw a sales tax revenue increase of about $400,000. So that's good news. It's definitely moving in the right direction, and we hope to see more of that, and we'll continue to work towards more of that in 2014. And how do we do that? Well, one thing that I think is pretty clear here in Downers Grove is that innovation just isn't continuous, it's contagious. And I want to talk about some innovative things that happened in 2013 under the auspices of the Village of Downers Grove. And they also provide examples of some of those words that I like to use, such as collaboration, consolidation, communication, recognition. Let's talk about a few of them. Very recently, we created the Fairview Fire District SSA, or Special Service Area, and that was designed to fix a problem that had been festering a long time, where there was a paper fire district that existed within our community that really was not getting services the way it should, was grossly underfunded, and was just destined to become much, much worse with time. A solution was badly needed. By working with both the Fairview Fire District itself, DuPage County, and the Village of Downers Grove, as well as the affected residents, working together, we were able to come up with a permanent funding source for the provision of village fire and EMS services to that area, which increases the village revenues by about $40,000, but most importantly provides a sustainable and long-term solution for providing services in that area and the funding to make sure that it is there well into the future. It also provides a step towards the elimination of the paper fire protection district pursuant to a new state law that facilitates that, which hopefully it's already achieved the goal of collaboration, but will also eventually perhaps achieve the goal of reducing overlapping and unnecessary units of government, which will of course support the goal of consolidation. So a very good example there, touching upon a couple of different of the C's: communication, collaboration, cooperation. The Village of Downers Grove last year, because it is a leader when it comes to environmental sustainability, we wanted to recognize businesses within our community that share the same vision and level of importance with respect to environmental sustainability by creating our new Green Business Program. So I put this one under the category of recognition. This program improves and enhances Village's relationship with the business community by recognizing their own efforts, and our first recognized businesses included Competitive Lawn Service, Bales Engineering, and good old Advocate Good Samaritan Hospital. Once again, coming through. This helps, among other things, to create awareness of environmental sustainability efforts occurring throughout Downers Grove, and quite frankly, encourages other businesses to do likewise, from which we all benefit. One of the things that the village did in terms of its interaction with members of the public is launching the council remarks website feature, and I emphasize that E because in the word it's a capital E. It's the opportunity for residents who visit our website where you see the Village Council agenda listed. There is a little area that you can click on right there on the website when you read an agenda item and provide your remarks, and they will be communicated to village staff and to the Village Council. This is another tool of which I think we may have to get a larger toolbox. We have so many tools to communicate with our residents. It allows them to interactively engage with Village Council and village staff with respect to items that will be discussed. We are actively promoting it because it has seen some traffic, but not as much as we would like. So hopefully, as people get more used to it, they will use it more as a tool by which to communicate with the village. And it provides residents with the ability to participate in village council meetings in this regard remotely, anytime, anywhere. So again, I encourage all folks who haven't to at least check it out. And if you have something on your mind, please feel free to share it with us. Speaking of interactive, something that's really cool that was rolled out last year was the new interactive community maps, another form of communication hitting that goal. The interactive maps that are on the village website provide residents with information about ongoing village projects, amenities, and events going on in the community from any computer or mobile device. Now what I like about it is you can also click on some of those little hard hats there and see what projects might, or the little icon of the guy with the shovel, and see what projects might be going on in your neighborhood. And ultimately, you will be linked to portions of our community investment program that will give you details on what that project is, what it involves, its scope, its cost, its budget, expected time frame. Pretty neat stuff. And speaking of neat stuff, one of the other things that we were able to accomplish quite creatively last year was the facilitation of the relocation of a demolition company that was located perhaps not in the ideal location within our town, and vacating the consent decree that allowed it to exist in the first place. This was an attempt to try to address resident concerns about noise, dust, and whatnot from that business, and if all works out, we'll permanently eliminate this use in that neighborhood, which both improves the village's reputation and relationship with the residents and relocates an incompatible use to a more compatible area. And that took some creative thinking and proposals to make that happen. And as long as we're talking about awesome achievements and acknowledgments, it would be neglectful once again if I didn't mention some of the awards that the Village of Downers Grove received in 2013, which adds to a long list of awards and recognitions that the village has received in the last number of years, wherein it continues to be recognized both regionally and nationally as a leader in effective governance and delivery of municipal services. And I'll just share a few examples. We received last year the Governor's Sustainability Award. We received the Clean Cities Coalition Green Fleet Award, the award entitled Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge. Our Finance Department, which has so many awards that I think they need another wall to hang them on in the back here, received a couple that I'll note. One is the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, Award for Distinguished Budget, and also the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report that came out in 2013. Also, Movoto Real Estate ranked Downers Grove one of the top 10 best cities in the state of Illinois, and clearly they hadn't spent enough time here. We would have been number 1 rather than one of the top 10, but we'll work on them on that. And also just want to mention one other thing. Speaking of national and regional recognition of our village and staff, in April 2013, Mike Baker, our Deputy Village Manager, Marcia Giesler, and Dave Fieldman presented at a convention put on by Alliance for Innovation, which is a organization that fosters innovation and other cutting-edge thinking with respect to delivery of municipal services and other municipal issues, national organization. Their presentation at that conference was so popular that they were asked later to host a national webinar on the very same topic, and was clearly one of the favorite presentations. Mr. Baker was then asked to submit an article, which he did, to the newsletter put out by that organization. The name of it, which is What's on the Menu, because not only was it a description of the philosophy of governance and municipal management within Downers Grove, but it was put in a very creative way that would both educate and entertain at the same time, literally put in the form of a cafe menu, so the reader could go through the menu and choose different choices while learning about how it is that Downers Grove has made its own in the world of municipal government as a leading edge organization. And again, just another example, and there are many others. I don't mean to undermine anyone by just singling out a few. I know Allison was involved as well. I forgot to mention her. But it's another example of how Downers Grove has been recognized as a leader among municipalities by being invited to speak at these national conferences and share its experiences with its peers across the country. Before I wrap up, I just want to say a couple of things. And one, first of all, I trust that the foregoing demonstrates very clearly in your mind that the state of the village of Downers Grove is strong and that we are on a path of sustained success. Now, 2013 was a terrific year, but we are already not resting on our laurels, but well underway with the 2014-2015 projects. And the slide that's up on the screen now will just give you a little idea of the timeline of some of the high priority and medium priority and other projects that the village council and village staff are already hard at work on accomplishing or working on accomplishing for the 2014-2015 year. And you'll certainly hear more about some of these projects next year, but keep an eye on them throughout the year as we report on progress on these various projects. So here we are, barely into February, and we're already got our heels dug in and working very hard. Sleeves rolled up, heels dug in, working very hard on the next batch of projects, which is a formidable list, as our village manager and others will certainly attest to. And the other thing I want to mention is that none of these successes or any of those that lie ahead would be possible without the extraordinary efforts of a number of groups of people. First and foremost, the talented and dedicated men and women who work for the Village of Downers Grove, the generous and giving volunteers who serve on our boards and commissions, our partners at other taxing organizations that we work with in terms of cooperation, communication, and collaboration. Of course, the vision and dedication of my colleagues here on the Village Council, and probably most importantly, support from the community at large. I like to think of it as sort of the theme that the Chicago, or the model that the Chicago Blackhawks have, and they've been rather successful lately, I think most would agree. And their motto is one team, one goal. And I think the more that we can mimic that same model, I think the more we will continue to be able to share successes like this with you in 2015 and beyond. I'd like to thank everyone for their rapt attention tonight and for allowing me to give you the 2013 report and 2014 State of the Village Address. And also want to thank you for helping us to help you keep our community an exceptional place to live, work, learn, play, and thrive. Thank you very much. That ends the Mayor's report. And brings us to item 11, which is the Manager's report. Mr. Fieldman.
Yeah, we do have one item tonight. We wanted to share a little bit of financial information about the continuous snow and ice control efforts, snow plowing, that have been really ongoing since December 31st. So here to present some financial information is our Finance Director, Judy Butney.
Our award-winning Finance Director, Ms. Butney. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you, Mayor and Council? As you can see in the first column, our 2014 budget for snow was $637,000. And if this would have been a normal winter, we would have expected to spend about $191,000 of that in the month of January. However, 33.1 inches later with 24 events, We have spent $438,000. And as you can see, for comparison purposes, the year previous was $82,000, and in 2012, about $135,000. But snow removal costs come from the village's general fund, which has a budget of $43.6 million. So to keep that in perspective, the $637,000 is about 1.5% of the total general fund budget. And although this is a high-profile service, there are many other services provided in the general fund, and we try and manage to a bottom line in the general fund. So of course, we will continue to monitor all general fund budgets during the year and, as the mayor said, continue leveraging existing assets neatly. So, any questions?
Yeah, what percentage of that money is overtime? How bad are we on the overtime budget?
We can get you a breakdown of the categories of costs, both in the budget and the year-to-date spending, chemicals, salt, overtime, straight time, equipment, materials, those kind of things. We can get that to the council shortly.
Yeah, and would that also include the review of what equipment we have? Because it appears that we have a lot of missing equipment because of maintenance issues.
We did have a couple of...
Scheduled and not scheduled maintenance.
We did have a couple of pieces of equipment go down, much like other communities with this continuous
Correct.
use. In fact, we have driven, Public Works Department has driven 60,000 miles since December 1st in snow and ice control, if that puts a little perspective on it. So the wear and tear has been noticeable, and our response has been great too. Our fleet management services have done a tremendous job. So we can provide a little bit more information, some of those details that support this story you see here.
Yeah, for the record, I don't need any of that until after we have a thaw, so I really would be interested.
Maybe our June 15th meeting.
I really would be interested in
Oh,
what
boy.
we've learned, because, you know, some of the news media is reporting out on other municipalities that don't have salt, they're back to throwing sand
Yeah,
and
that's-
gravel or whatever else, and to me, long run, you're gonna have sewer issues and flooding issues, and so, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council? Commissioner Barnett?
Not so fast, Judy. Can you kind of characterize for us, that looks like we've spent about 70% of the 2014 budget. In 2012 and 13, you know, what did the January, February, early March expenditures of the budget, were they typically half, or you know, how deep a hole are we digging, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at.
Well, I guess it depends on how the rest of the year goes, and obviously we see February is already,
Yeah, well, we can't predict, obviously, the fall or
Right.
the back-end cycle, but in 2012 and 2013, the first 3 months of the year spent how much of the budget
Yeah,
would be kind of an interesting comparison.
When we make the budget, first of all, it's interesting that when we went to a calendar year budget, January 1st to December 31st, the snow and ice control season splits. It's January, February, March, then we take several months off, and then November. I hope we take several months off, and then November, December. The breakdown is about 30% of those costs spent in January, about 30% in February, a little bit less in March, a tiny bit in November, hopefully, and a smaller amount in December. So we can get to the breakdown of how we budget those expenses, and it's been all over the map in any given year, but generally, in the bottom line, has held true. So about 30% in January is what we budget.
That doesn't, it's got the potential to not feel so bad then. January, February, 60%, we're at 70 right now. Obviously, we're on a faster pace, but it's not necessarily a complete disaster.
Correct. Which is why we also framed it up in terms of a $43 million budget, because yes, this is an issue on one of many hundreds of line items, and we will work together as an entire staff to address bottom line management issues. But we wanted to alert the community to this issue because clearly, like other towns, we have been expending a lot of resources in response to the weather and the road conditions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Other questions or comments, Commissioner Rankin?
Just kind of in line with what Sean was saying. So we've heard on the news that other communities are saying they're running out of salt. If I remember right, we ordered the same amount we would have, even though we had a surplus from the years before. So are we good?
So this is always an ongoing challenge. First of all, there's a regional salt supply issue due to supply chain issues and just plain old demand. We do everything within our power to maintain the working relationships with the suppliers. We do everything we can on a technical basis to order as much as we can, as fast as we can, given that we have been using it at such a high rate. Because of that, we've only had 1 or 2 days where we've gone to conservation mode. We will continue to monitor, and if there are any usage issues that the public and the council should be aware of, we will immediately put that out on our social media venues and our website. So it's only happened a couple of days so far, but it is always an ongoing issue that we have to monitor.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the council? I'll just add that obviously this is something that is left best managed by the professionals, and we understand that you're trying to manage a number of different things here and balance competing concerns. On the one hand, you have an extraordinary winter that seems to never end. It's dumping enormous amounts of snow on us. At the same time, you don't want to have endless amounts of salt sitting around somewhere, because that doesn't make any sense either. You want to, not quite just-in-time delivery, but you want to have it about right to balance that part of it. So there's, I understand, I think everyone understands that there may be some needs to shift around and manage within a sphere, so to speak, in terms of salt usage, the service levels, the timing of when salt deliveries arrive, because I understand that it's possible to go get more, but the cost is staggering above what we can get it for in an existing situation. And so I just think everybody needs to understand that I think everyone's doing a terrific job here, the staff, of managing. As you just mentioned, there's only been a couple of occasions where we've even gone into conservation mode. Other communities are having some real problems. So far, I think we're doing a terrific job in managing this pretty well, and I know you'll continue to do that. But there may have to be some periodic adjustments here and there to make sure that that management continues in the best possible fashion. And that's what I think everyone needs to understand. Is sometimes extreme situations require a little bit of flexibility. But thank you for all the good work so far. And I'm just also thrilled that we haven't experienced any injuries or problems in these circumstances, which is also a very high concern and priority.
Thank you very much, Mayor. That ends our report tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Field. And that brings us to our attorney's report. Ms. Petrarca?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items to present this evening. The first is an ordinance amending the alarm code provisions to provide for wireless radio systems. And the second is an ordinance establishing a crosswalk at Carpenter Street. Both will be on next week's agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Brings us to item 13, council member new business. Any members of the village council, any items of new business they would like to share or raise at this time? Hearing none, we are not going to adjourn tonight. We need to adjourn into executive session, but do we need to take the motion for electronic attendance first?
Yes.
All right, because Commissioner Olson is out of town, he was able to participate in part of our meeting tonight, as I understand it, so he has requested permission to participate in the executive session portion of tonight's meeting by electronic means. So may I have a motion to permit electronic attendance at the executive session that we will go into shortly by Commissioner Olson?
Mayor, I move to allow Commissioner Olson to participate in the Village Council Executive Session meeting of February 4th, 2014 by telephone.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. That motion passes. And now I need a motion to adjourn into executive session, please.
Mayor, I move to convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider collective negotiating matters between the village and its employees or their representatives.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned into executive session. Thank you.